The president has been kidnapped by ninjas. Are you a bad enough dude to go and rescue him? No. Oh, you're waiting on those checks too. Yeah, I figured. That explains everything. Salutations, Searching for Rinoa here with the second installment of Rinoa Reviews Video Power. A 90s as 90s gets kind of show with undiluted crackhead energy for its live action and cartoon action segments. I won't bore you with the details for this episode. If you're new, you can check out my first episode review of episodes 1 through 5. Tell more about video power in and of itself. I just want to get right to the review. I forgot to do this last time, but I do want to give a shout out to Retro Tunes for the source that I'm getting, like as far as like all these shots you're seeing in the episodes as well. I tried to look for this on a DVD of Amazon. I don't think it exists. Like this is that's the reason I want to do this series, because this feels like the series that maybe like time and most people have forgotten or don't really remember. Again, like I said, for me this was like 6 a.m. when I saw it as a kid. So if I didn't wake up super early, I never would have known this existed. Episode 6, Speedway Assault. Big's cronies got themselves some customized 4x4s, all with their own, like, Bigfoot-esque tech, like with their bumpers and everything like this. They're gonna meet in a monster truck race with the only rule is the winner who makes it 5 full laps around the racetrack first. Other than that, there are no rules, and the announcer says as much. I'm picking up on some usual, I might have said that in the annotations over there before, but what's he sound like? The announcer, I'm thinking he sounds like Sia Torrent from Ronin Warriors. Like, I'm getting a lot of, like, oh, this is all my, like, Canadian dubs and stuff like that, because it was just 90s enough to where that kind of started out. How unresponsive was that joystick? Because Johnny's single button mashing has Bigfoot deploy front bumper and bump just one of Big's no-named henchmen out of commission. Yeah, there's like his 2 usual guys, and then 2 other guys are doing the driving. But Joe Rockhead and Spike are going to drive later. Bigfoot runs under this spiked metal wheel or something to that effect, and it just happens to just flies up and whoosh, it cuts his brake fluid line, and He's got like, they're not like pickup trucks. They're like I forget what they're called. They're like, I can't think of the name of it, but like Optimus Prime is like the front end of a truck. I think it's like a hauling truck or something like that. And then there's like the big box part of it. Well, they don't have the big box part. It's just those trucks. They're not like monster trucks. They're just like different those kinds of trucks. I should have looked over and see what they were called, but I wouldn't know I don't know cars. I don't know. My racing consists of like mostly like kart racing and stuff like that. Real life and it's one in front and one in back, so they're like basically like surround Bigfoot in front and back. Johnny's advice is just switch over to the bypass one again. Is that a thing? I don't know that about cars. It's like, oh Johnny, I got my brakes back, thank you. And then Johnny's like, oh hey Kwirk, you go on one truck and disrupt while Max Force with Kiros grapple hook guns their way onto another. You see a lot more gadgets with Max Force in this one. Like one of his things, he's got like, it's like a flak jacket where there's like pads, but he can like hit a button and like one of the pads will shoot out with like little rockets on, and sometimes like take the hit for like Mr. Big's like any of his cigar attacks for like missiles. It just bounces back whatever it is. And you still get the weird shield that opens up if he needs to play defensively. I'm just like, just shoot the pads. Well, they only do it like, he's only got 2 pads. It's like 6 pads, but only the top 2 chest ones are the only ones that fire. Or at least the only ones I see. Maybe that'll change at later episodes, who knows. But yeah, while this is going down, Mr. Big is just by himself. He's like, okay. There's just one lone banker in the entirety of this building. With it, who just so happens to have all the charity ticket money. These things go fast. I forget to my notes sometimes of what goes down. Like, they take up most of the show, but the pacing for it, again, is still, like, breakneck almost. So if you miss something, you're like, what the hell's going on? So Big robs the place. Money, 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 money. Kwirk removes the engine of Spike's truck. Max Force with a knife cuts Rockhead's gas line, which frees Bigfoot to just chase after Mr. Big's limo and get the money back. They're just like, stop chasing me, here's the money, leave me alone. Live Action Johnny kicks off with a debuting review of one of my personal favorite NES games of all time, Mega Man 3, baby. Love that game. And man, the production errors are still all over the place. I feel like it's just gonna, I don't know if it's like theirs or I guess it is, because the recording of from the Retro Tunes channel has the commercials intact too. And oh man, that's gonna be a fun one to get through when I get to the commercially segment of all, cause good lord, episode 6 through 10. Whew. He calls this episode Burnt Rubber when that was episode 5, and a new segment ? Called Stuff, because it only happened maybe once or twice throughout these episodes. I don't know if maybe the network had a pacing error or whatever, but he details. Well, not really details. He just says, here's this light you can slide on over your Game Boy to play in the dark. He doesn't say what the brand is. There's no camera zoom or anything. There's always there's only really a couple of cameras. And if he's just talking to you, there's no camera change or zooming in unless he's got to turn over to talk about something else. Very static camera. Maybe only got one or two in that whole room or whatever. There's always the big thing with a huge light switch. And he always opens the show with now that's video power. That's something I'm noticing as well. He might have done it earlier, but now it's just getting through the Because I forgot to mention the opening credits is just this guitar riff, not too memorable, but just memorable enough to get you pumped. But yeah, he just mentions he doesn't mention what the slider is, how much it costs, blah blah blah, brand name, nothing. It just shows a thing, which for all I know could just be some weird piece of plastic. So yeah, not too big on the dudes there. Where to go, where to buy. Come on, put us gamers in the know, damn it. Episode 7, Turf Wars. There's a news reporter talking with two gangs, the Dukes and the Barons. They're trying to call a truce, but Big's cronies is yeah, we're gonna blow up the Dukes HQ and pin it on the Barons. So when the two gangs fight again, city's cops will be too busy dealing with them. And we'll just roll right in and take over the entire city. The power team split among the two areas. Kwirk and Tyrone arrive to fend off Big and goons, but an explosion from one of Big's rocket cigars sends Rubble to bury the two. And the rest of the team just so happens to arrive to save the day. But it's already too late. The Dukes arrive to see the Baron's jacket and go, "Ooh, sabotage!" They declare it's all-out war now. After the commercial break, Max Force and crew arrives to stop said war, saying, "Listen, give us 24 hours. I'll prove it was Big that planted that jacket." He tried to say it earlier. It's just enough of your side talk. So our heroes are now disguised as gang members to fool Rockhead and Spike, thinking hey, we're chummy with each other. It's okay. Which I guess they go off to tell Mr. Big. So when he strikes back, the other gang layer to blow that up. The power team's waiting, with the help of the rest of the two gangs, united to chase off the bad guys. Our live action segment, jizz. Some of these are just whoo, man. Mad cringe. But again, with the 90s, we were just... And I think one of them was arguably racist? Not even arguably, but anyway. He's dressed, it's a review. I thought he reviewed it before, but I guess maybe now the game is out now. It was just a sneak peek, but again, he always says review of games. I keep thinking they're I think he reviews them because they're coming out or new or whatever, but he's dressed in a yellow hat and it looks like a raincoat and a rain hat because the hat's the shiniest fucking thing on him. It's almost see-through or plastic, or whatever the raincoat material makes. But yeah, it's Dick Tracy for the NES, which again I said was whew. And another stuff review. It's a flight stick looking controller with buttons on the side. He calls it the Attack 50 controller for the Genesis. I didn't own a Genesis, so I don't know if that exists or not. So, but most likely. Also, a debut review for Shadow of the Ninja for the NES, with Johnny in a ninja hood sounding more Latino with his also Japanese impression. You have to do the flipping kicks and stuff like that, and it's like, oh Christ. Sorry if I'm. It's the only way I can maybe do it justice. And then he does the gameplay graphics opposite, and the other one is like the wrong kind of Asian. He's just like, oh, Grasshopper, it's about the gameplay. Oh, Christ. Episode 8, Bigfootenstein. This 4-day storm's building some harsh waters that are going to threaten to break some levees and flood Millview. Power team arrive as the workers are leaving, saying, that levee's about to burst, we're out of here. Max first idea, okay. We're going to evaporate the water. Bigfoot, Kiros, start tapping it with your lasers. But here comes water elemental Malkil to start some shit with some big icebergs to raise the level again and drag the power tube into the water. Malkil zaps a lone Bigfoot while they're dealing with this on the side and some enemies that he summoned. He's like, I will put this Bigfoot under my control. And Kwirk can fly now to fight off Malkil's fish. Like, usually he's like bouncing off walls and stuff like that, but no, he's just out in the middle of the lake or ocean or whatever. I don't know, they specify. They say the Atlantic, but I'm like, and Kwirk said something, he's like, oh no, the Atlantic's, we're gonna get squished by it. I forget exactly what he said. Again, these episodes just go so fast, I'm trying to. But once again, gotta find that chest to get the spell and get rid of him. Like, every time Malkil shows up, there's just gonna be the chest either near him or some other way, like, so Kiros can go in, arm himself with the... Why doesn't he just keep the spell? And save yourself maybe like a minute or two of, like... Well, I guess we wouldn't need Malkil anymore. If he just has it all the time. It's just like, oh, hey, Malkil. Bam. Earth Scorch spell. Get on out. They call it the water spell in this episode, too. It's not water... what was it? Water Blight. I was going to say water spout, but I think that's the... there's a water spout spell that, like, carries you up. Like, I remember off the top of my head, I had a VHS of one of the Game Players magazines, and it was a lot of the Acclaim stuff, too, and Wizards and Warriors 2, Iron Sword was one of them. So, as the name of the episode, Bigfoot decides in a very low tone, saying, I'm gonna take you to Malkil. I know where he's hiding. Every time he speaks, you hear, ba 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 ba, the warp whistle noise from Mario 3 playing in the background. So yeah, the power tomb is led right into a creepy mansion and get caught. Now Malkil's the earth elemental. Is that the only two he's going to go for back and forth? Will we see fire or wind? Who knows? Might be a later episode where it's like, I tap into my full power or something. But yeah, water and earth again. The power tomb is all like imprisoned behind like some bars, and it's like a makeshift prison inside his mansion. And he's just standing there as the big earth element. So I'm like, that's a pretty big mansion to be able to hold that weight of the earth. And like, oh, you want the earth scorch spell? The chest is like right at my feet. You're sure not going to get it because I'm just going to shoot rocks at you and bury you alive. Somehow there's a smiley face on a scroll that they see on Malkil's walls just hanging there. So he has 2 fucking spells that can undo his shit. Oh my god. Not 1, but 2! 2 spells that can undo his evil deeds. Again, I don't know. I'm not familiar with Iron Sword, but it's like one of those big have a nice day smiley faces. Johnny calls it like, oh, that's the familiar spell. Or somebody calls it. It's either Johnny or Kiros. It's like, that's the familiar spell. Max Force strikes it with his... he throws something at it, like some piece of metal or something like that with... like wires on the side, like I guess that's like a grappling thingy or something like that. But whatever, he throws his little doohickey dervish, whatever the hell, and hits the smiley face, and it's like whoosh, flies immediately to Bigfoot, and bam, hits Bigfoot, frees him immediately of Malkil's control, and the heroes just beat Malkil back at the treasure and the spell, and there you go. Live action Johnny with reviews of Maniac Mansion for the NES, going more crackheaded as the review goes. Like, I think he's starting doing like a He's trying to do like a psychiatrist impression? Or is that the next John Sebastian? Man, some of these kind of blur together and it's just getting all weird and cringy. Also, Hevu Shredden. Also for the NS with Johnny full like, no, these dudes sound like he sounds like a half asleep Pauly Shore. That's how best that's just listening to him, I'm like, oh, brah. I'm not doing it any justice, but you can just go to that and like see like the end of the episode where he's just reviewing the games. They're not even long reviews. Like I said, most of this, like it's like 90% the cartoon, which is again why I'm covering it. But I just gotta like cut back and do like the Johnny stuff. Oh, and the commercials too, which I skip some of because I'm just interested in like the commercialism, and if anything like strikes me, then I'll take a look. Anyway, episode 9, it came to Millburg. I thought it was Millview. This is where I get confused now. Like maybe I don't have it all figured out. This was a episode and a half, man. Just writing this down. This might be my longest paragraph, but archaeologists in the frozen wastelands, they find this preserved dinosaur egg. Johnny sees the news report talking about the dinosaurs back in Millburg. Yeah, they call it Millburg now. Will they go back to Millview? I'll have to keep an ear out. It's this Professor Hornberg that finds it, and the bad guys, they think like, if we get the egg, we can ransom it back to these guys for more amount of money than it's obviously worth. So Big gets in disguise. He's Dr. Beakenstein with a German accent, talking to Professor Hornberg. Fire alarm sounds thanks to Spike. So I thought they were like in a museum, or I guess the school too, because there's like school kids I'm walking out. So maybe they wanted to. Why would they do it at a school? Why wouldn't they just do it at like a museum? Ah, well, it gets put your pieces in place and not really like fucking explain why the pieces are there. It's just like, all right, let's go. Time's wasted. Blah, blah, blah. So Big gets the egg and he's like runs off. I think he shoots like something at like to endanger maybe like the school kids or something like that. He's like, school's out forever. Nice reference. So yeah, they get away with the egg successfully. So they're back in the lair. They're having the plan to sell the egg. They're celebrating like cheesecake or something like that, and then afterwards they just sleep it off. They just take a nap, leaving the egg just sitting on the table. The ice is starting to melt. Back to where the professor is. He warns this egg could hatch rather than be destroyed if the ice fully melts. And next scene, like you didn't even see the hatching. It's just bam. There's a Yoshi-sized T-Rex just breaking everything in the hideout. Mr. Big's like, they'll pay even more money. They don't know that it's alive. Only problem is, it's hungry. So Spike and Rockhead get busy whipping up anything they can find and cooking stuff. And Big's like, hello, supermarket? Just send me a lot of food. I don't care where you get it from. I need that like today. And they sleep that off after eating it. In the morning, boom, bam, it's a full-size T-Rex now. Big's like, again, trying to call a supermarket. And before he can finish the call, T-Rex, boom, through the wall of Mr. Big's hideout. And now it's on the loose. Bigfoot seeing the dino and all with the rest of the power team. He corrals the dinosaur into the park with like his lasers, where Kiros feels at home. He's like, fighting a giant lizard. I guess T-Rexes are just wingless dragons to that guy. I mean, yeah. Have you seen Hauser from Warzord or Capcom Fighting Evolution? Anyway, they're fighting. Well, not really fighting. Kiros trying to square off against this dinosaur. Big's like, this is my chance to zap Kiros with this cartridge and get him back to his homeworld. Kiros deflects it with his sword. The beam from the cartridge hits the dinosaur, so that gets sent to Ice Fair Mountain instead, which is the final level of Iron Sword 2. Big's like, no! Kiros very quickly, yes. That almost won the moment, but there was an earlier one that like. This episode was great. I'm going to get to that with my power on moment, but there's a really good one. Villains are sent away. Professor laments the loss of the dinosaur. He's like, I would have liked to have studied that. But when Kiros gets to talking about how his homeworld has all sorts of fantastical creatures, the professor is all ears. Live action Johnny with a double review. One is a shooter for the TurboGrafx 16 called Psychosis. Okay, this is where he does the psych doctor thing, but his accent is, it does the psych doctor thing, but it's like, his accent is Lugosi vampire. See, blah. He does everything. He's like, I like weird. I like the graphics. No, the gameplay. I like weird. I do. Thankfully, leaves the stereotypical Asian impression alone for his other review for Phantom Fighter for the NES, a game about fighting Kyonshu, I believe the term is. Hopping vampires. China believes that vampires, they come back. They can't walk, so they either float or just hop on legs, so they got rigor mortis or whatever. Episode 10, Pull the Plug. Hey, for once, Tyrone and Kwirk are inside riding Bigfoot. Don't see that often. Joe Rockhead driving the limo alone doing recon for water park security. Like the charity bank, there's just one guy guarding the controls, so they easily take that over. And calls all sorts of calamities for the customers. His plan, if the owner wants the park back to normal, Big wants 50% of the pay. We just got done with water 2 eps ago, and again, Kiros is looking for his water blight spell. And Tyrone's like, no Malkil, no spell. So yeah, that's how that works. I'm like, okay, thanks for establishing that. Malkil just shows up in this real world, and then there's always that nearby treasure chest. Seems kind of counterproductive. Maybe you're safer in Sindarin and just ruling there. Like, Kiros is way the hell over there in Millview doing Mr. Big stuff. If anything, back in Sindarin is unguarded. Just take over. Just do it, you pussy. Sorry, it just made me really upset. I never even think about it. The first time, it's like he takes that magic mirror door into the world to fight Kiros. I mean, I get the whole revenge thing, but I'm just like, he's not here. He can't stop you from doing what you're gonna do to your homeworld of Sindarin now if you wanted to rule it, or does he already? That could be kind of a thing where he's like if anything, the villain should win. He's unopposed on that side. Just handle ruling that. That ain't enough. So the power team gets washed away just so they can divide and conquer in that control room, and that's where this shows up, the little disguise here. This is the thumbnail. Max Force and Kwirk on one end. Tyrone, throughout these episodes, I've been getting an earful of Kiros. He's like, oh man, why I gotta stay with Kiros, man? All he does is talk about how cool his game world is. I'm sick of it. They all wash away the bad guys, including Big and his cartridges, which again, real life dictates getting them wet is getting them not working anymore. But I guarantee you that's still going to be a constant threat, because live action Johnny reviews the NES game based on the movie Total Recall. That's his impression, Total Recall. The graphics, the gameplay. Wait. I'm not doing it justice, because I dare say his impression of Arnold is worse than mine. There's also footage of him hosting a 1990 Nintendo event. Yeah, not too much this time. It was some winner got a big score on Tetris for the NES. But now to get to my giving out awards segment. First, the power off segment for the weakest moment of the episode 6 through 10, and this happens in episode 8. While the power team are driving to the levees while the rainstorm's going, the usual deal with the power team sitting in Bigfoot, Max Force is in the driver's seat, Kiros sits passenger. So yeah, they're always leaving the black guy and the tomato out in the trunk to stand out. And it's pouring, so they're soaked. I'm phew. And Kwirk chimes in I didn't think volunteering would leave us getting soaked like this. Kiros replies, what do you mean we? That's some cold bullshit right there, Kiros. Couple of them in power on. Some honorable mentions. Joe Rockhead wins another one in episode 10 where Big's trying to... But when they're about to take over, he's trying to pull on this door, but it's not opening. He's like, Joe, get this door open. And Joe just, before he can finish his sentence, Joe just walks up, pushes the door open. It's not a pull door, Mr. Big. It's like, oh, smart guy. Joe Rockhead doesn't get one over big often, but if it's continuing, like if I can get one every week, every set of episodes every week, like once every 5, or that'd be awesome. I'll keep pointing it out. I'll keep pointing out when Joe actually gets. Joe actually like gets his savant moment, so to speak. But yeah, the big winner goes to Professor Hornberg. Biggenstein and the actual professors back and forth with the ladder. Like, I've never heard of you. I've never heard of Biggenstein before. I've never heard of you or your research. And Biggenstein's like, oh, you never heard of me? Oh, I'm big. Very big. Professor's like, yeah, I can see that. What really sold me again was after the egg gets stolen, he's distraught, like, oh, my greatest discovery. It got nabbed. Now what do I do? And Kira says all, on the news, you were kind of, he was kind of playing off like, oh, you didn't think it was so great. Professor's like, you shut up. You're not even wearing pants and you're telling me what a great discovery is? Fuck you. Like, I need to rewind again just a couple times just to understand, like, did he just pop off on Kira's? I'm like, yo, that's what you get for episode 8. The crackheadiest award goes to Kwirk and him just flying like he's a super tomato during the fight with the water element of Malkil in episode 8. Like, no walls or whatever. Like, what is he bouncing on? The sky? Like, he's not even bouncing. He's just... He's literally flying. I'm like, okay, he can break physics now. Maybe he got a power-up or something like that. Oh, now this huge paragraph for the commercialist. My God. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does what Nintendo don't. I forgot the Genesis actually had a bit of a leg up on Nintendo at first. Super Nintendo came out a little bit later. But yeah, almost every commercial break, like either like the first or second loop will get the Genesis does. And it always came with like get a Genesis, you can get like either columns or like a bunch of other sports titles that didn't really pique my interest at all. Because I'm like, Like, you gotta have Sonic by now. No, you don't have that yet? Maybe he came later? I don't know. Like, Genesis was the honorable mention. The winner. Every commercial break has the Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle toys. The toys they're selling on the commercial are different each time. It lasted from episode 6 to 8. 3 full episodes, 2 commercial breaks in between them. 6 different commercials. 7, because I saw a new one after the fact when they came around episode 9. That's impressive in the scariest, commercialiest of ways. Like, episode 9 had one I hadn't seen before for the second break, and I was like, oh my god, they're not done. Also, a couple other honorable mentions, just because I want to point them out. Every commercial break, like the first one, always had, his name's John Machida. You might know him from, if you're 80s, 90s, or whatever, you might know him as like, Micro Machines. You know, he's good, he's known for being like a super fast talker now. He's got his own board game called Motormouth, which they don't explain what it is. But it just has his like face on the cover. Just like bald ass John Machida just staring at you to play this like board game or like game where you like hold cards and you gotta like, I guess you get like a sentence and you just gotta like say it as fast as you can or something. I don't know. In every episode, there's at least once again, there's something called tumblers. That's what they call them. They're like Tom and Jerry tumblers, with Welch's jelly inside, but it's like Tom and Jerry characters on the cover. I might have actually had one of those. I forget it was like glass or plastic, but it was like a tumbler, but it was like a jar of jelly. Welch's grape stuff. I had some of the Playmates toys too, but I didn't see any of the commercial. It was like one where it's like they have like the big shell. It's like it's like just huge flat circle, so you can like lay them down, and then you get like a little ripcord or whatever, and just Beyblade them so they would spin on their shell. It was probably around the time maybe like the movie came out, because they do that like, because I think it was one of the shots of the movie. They just spin with the around. He just starts spinning. I don't know if they before or after. Oh man. But that will do for episode 2 of Video Power. Rinoa Views Video Power. Episode 3 will cover episodes 11 through 15. That's not even halfway done yet. It's close, but... In any case, take care, and thanks for listening.